Hi, I'm attorney Vincent Davis, and I've been fighting CPS for over 35 years. Through my years of experience, I've gained invaluable insights that I'm ready to share with you. If you're a parent or a caregiver or a relative, we need to talk. I'm offering a new opportunity for you to speak with me on a one-on-one basis. Ask me any questions, and I'll provide you with the insight you need to take steps in your CPS case. Members get everything they need to gain confidence and the knowledge that they need to support necessary to truly fight back. And as a special thank you for attending, I have a special offer just for you. Don't miss out, join us, and let's take that next step together. I'll see you at the question and answer event.
Okay. Good evening and welcome. I'm Bob Pace. I'm your host here to fight CPS and to stop taking our children. It's a warm welcome because you're coming from an area that has been very troublesome. Fighting CPS is an awful thing to be able to have to do. It's hard enough when you are having trouble with your family, and then there are the false reports that are made, and suddenly your family is broken apart. It's a very tragic thing with your family like that. I'm here as I've been every night for the past year, over a year. I've done over 700 podcasts. They're all recorded. You can see them all. I've talked to over 600 people on these podcasts from around the world, from the U.S. and from about 18 countries. And one thing they all have in common is that they all want to have their family back together. Now, you just heard my attorney, Vincent W. Davis. I want to thank Mr. Davis for taking the time to do what he does on his own dime or nickel. He has that Saturday podcast where it's a question answers. You have to be a member of the school, and then you have to register for this podcast to partake in it. If you missed it, it will repeat again at the end of my podcast. There are links to it. Also, I have about 8 rooms that all link together. They have messages in each of the rooms. You'll see them come in. Sometimes they come in all at once. Sometimes they'll come in a little bit at a time. Sometimes after people make comments, and sometimes they repeat themselves. But I know it's hard to deal with something that you're not prepared for. Fighting CPS is like open heart surgery. You need a professional. That's what Mr. Davis is. Someone in the background, in the training, in the family law, juvenile law, and dependency law. Those are the 3 areas that your attorney must be trained in. And Vince Davis meets that criteria. In fact, he is a trial attorney. He's also done lawsuits and won and beaten CPS for money. He's won millions of dollars in both federal and state courts. Now, who am I? I'm not an attorney. I've been only working on this for 15 years fighting CPS. I, too, was involved in CPS, and my children were taken from me. They were trafficking. They were alienated from the family. Unfortunately, I lost my job in 2010 through no fault of my own. That was a career job. I had 45 years. I was 60 years old. Shortly thereafter, I started receiving calls from the CPS saying that me and my wife were not taking care of our children. We weren't providing them shelter or food, we weren't taking them to school, those kinds of things. That's kind of hard to believe because we did, and we did not know that a layperson had, or laypersons had called in, and that was what happened in our case. It took me a while to figure it out. But my wife's mother, father, 3 sisters and brothers were calling in once a week for 5 years, reporting things that weren't true. They wanted our children. They wanted our children. That's how bad they wanted. And it's sad to have a family like that. I mean, we all love our families. Now, tonight it looks like it's fairly quiet. We do have someone that came into my room here, and I want to welcome them. And Betty has just sent a message here. She texted Betty Wenderfield. Well, what do you have to say, Betty? Well, what happens when there's an ICPC that's been approved in both states and the child is still not being placed with approved ICPC? For some of you who may not know what ICPC, it's a private organization that helps with the transport of children from one state to another state without them getting lost. Now, what the letters stand for, they stand for the Interstate Compact on the Placement of Children. Now, this ICPC is a legal contract between the 50 states, the District of Columbia, and the U.S. Virgin Islands to establish procedures for placing children across state lines for adoption or foster care. The IPC purpose is to protect children and assign responsibility to the individuals and agencies involved in their placement. The Association of Administrators of the Internet Compact on the Placement of Children administers the IPC. Now, this purpose of the ICPC is to ensure that children receive adequate protection and support, and that the agents and individuals involved in the placement are held responsible. And this applies to a variety of placements, including foster care, adoption of the relatives or parents in residential facilities. The ICPC ensures that children are placed in a safe environment that's been approved by the receiving state. The receiving state also supervises the placement, while the sending state remains legally and financially responsible for the child. In California, counties and licensed adoption agencies process interstate placement requests for foster family homes, relative homes, and prospective adopted homes. Now, Betty has a problem with this because the children are still not placed, and I don't know why they would not be placed. Now, Betty, I'm so glad that you called in here. What I would like to know is what city and state or county your CPS case is in so that I can help you out further. Now, she says, what happens when a mother lies to CPS about another family member? Well, if they can't catch the lies, I guess they get by with it. Can CPS keep the child in that state if the child was not born in that state? I don't think being born in a state has anything to do with the transfer of children. Betty says she's fighting for custody for my niece, and she is in foster care system in Nebraska. Okay, so how did the original CPS skate? I am on adoption family. I am a foster family. I am her biological aunt. Okay, Betty? And then what paperwork is it that I have to file in the state of Nebraska to keep my rights when the parent rights have been or will be terminated? Why are the parents' rights being terminated? What is happening with the mother and father? Can you give me some more information, Betty? And what state or city you called from? That would really help me. I think what I need to do is that I need to put one of my banners up about typing in comments or questions. When you type in a message, either a comment or a CPS question, please show your name, the city, or the county, and it can be your first name, your state, and if you're from another country, your province in your country, and be complete with your CPS case. That's really important there. That's really, really, really important there. Okay. Betty is from Dodge County in Fremont, Nebraska. Welcome. Now, can you tell me why the parents' rights are being terminated? Why is the mother and father no longer with the children? And how many children are we talking about? And he says you're a foster family. Are you the foster family that's going to get the child? And why is the child going from state to state? Is it because the foster parents are in a different state? Now, you can call into my podcast. I do have a phone number. In fact, I'll put it up now. So in case some of you like to call in, my phone number that I now will be live that you could call is 626-698-0990. That is the number to call in. It goes to my office phone number, and it's a direct connection. And I'd gladly, if you talk about your case, sometimes it's easier. Now, Betty says the mother is mentally not capable of taking care of the child. The father has not been doing what they ask him to do, is to find housing and find a job and keep visitations. Welcome, Faye. I'm so glad you're here. Faye is from Richmond, Kentucky. She is a loving mother. She is trying to take care of her son. She wants to be a guardianship of her son. Her son's a special needs son. And she was in and out of foster care 5 separate times, and she went through hell. And she's still going through hell. Now, Betty says, no, that is where the case is. I live in Montana. Okay. So, first of all, why is the child, okay, it's one child. Okay. Why is that child be moving from state to state? Is there a reason why that child needs to go to another state? And so the mother has a mental problem. Now, you're related to, because I think you said you're an aunt or something. Betty, you said it's your aunt or something. So we have Betty from Montana talking about a case in Nebraska. And what it is the father refused to do anything, and the mother has mental ill problems. The case started in Nebraska, and both parents moved away from Nebraska to move back to Montana to work the case here where I live. Boy, that's a hard case. So, is the child being moved from Nebraska to Montana? And how old is this one child? How old is this one child? And how did you get involved, Betty, with the, are you trying to adopt a child? Is that what you're trying to do? Okay, my phone number is up on the screen. It's 626-698-0990. That's my phone number. That's my office phone number. So you can call in on that. The other number on the screen is my law firm, 888-888-6582. That's the law office of Vincent W. Davis and Associates. And you do call into that number, 888-888-6582. Make sure you tell them that Bob Pace sent you. And that is the main office where you can retain Mr. Davis if you want him as your attorney. Or maybe there's other legal matters such as immigration law, divorce law, criminal law, real estate law, workman's place law, whatever the case would be. He has an attorney for everything. So that's why that number is at 888-888-6582. But my number is 626-698-0990. 0990. Whew. Good evening, and who do I have the pleasure of talking to?
This is Betty Jo Whithold.
This is who again?
This is Betty Jo. We've been talking
Okay,
online
Betty,
there.
are you the one that's talking on the on my podcast?
Yes, sir.
Oh, great. Glad to meet you. Now you're from Montana.
Yes.
You're from Montana, right? Okay. And how did you know about these people that are not taking care of their children? What was it that they did that was so awful?
Well, my brother and his significant other, they ended up leaving Montana here to go to Nebraska to live, and then they ended up being homeless down there, and they ended up moving in a treehouse. CPS came involved when Mom called the police saying that her and my brother were arguing. They came, they saw the child inside of a wagon with THC and a knife involved, so they removed the child from Mom and Dad. Both Mom and Dad got arrested. When they both got arrested, they called me, asked me to come pick up the child. I told them I would have to call the caseworker, called the abuse and neglect hotline to talk to somebody there. The guy that I spoke to told me that he just got off the phone with the caseworker. He would give her my information. The next day, she calls me and tells me, if you can make it here in 6 hours, great, I'll give you the baby. Well, that's not possible to make it from Montana to Fremont, Nebraska in 6 hours.
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty far distance. And even with today's transportation, maybe a plane ride, but not driving there.
Right. So after I told her it wasn't feasible that I could do that, she's like, okay, well, we'll figure what we can do out to get you involved. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I'll be filing what I need to file. Do I need to file anything? She's like, no, you'll be fine. You should have placement of the baby because you're next of kin, your family, you should be able to get next of kin. Well, I've been fighting since May of last year of 23. It's been over a year now since the kiddo's been even with the parents or even with me. I had her for 45 days of her life prior of her leaving to go to Nebraska, and she's almost 2. She'll be 2 in February.
Was the child born in Nebraska? I mean, in Montana?
Yes, sir. Yes,
so, and this is your brother's and his wife.
His ex-girlfriend. They weren't married.
Okay. But she was the mother of the child.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So your brother had a girlfriend. They had a child. And because the child was in danger because she was sleeping in a wagon, you said?
Well, they found THC and a knife inside of the wagon. They didn't have no running water, no electricity. They were living in a tree house at the time of removal of the child.
So they didn't have adequate housing for the child, right?
Correct. Right.
And this was in Montana?
No, that was in Nebraska.
So what they did is that, why did they leave Montana? I mean, what were they living in Montana? Was your brother and his girlfriend living there?
They were living in a little apartment together.
And that seemed pretty adequate, right?
That seemed adequate, yeah, because they weren't involved at that time. CPS got involved when the baby was first born, but I think they kind of closed that case because they told me to take guardianship of the child. So the parents gave me guardianship and file no paperwork with the court. It was just to, I guess, close the case for CPS in Montana, showing them, okay, well, if they can sign off guardianship, then okay, fine, we'll close the case. Thinking that I was going to be the primary caregiver for this child, which is my niece, and Mom signed her guardianship back because it was open. It wasn't where I just closed it on a certain date. It was open. And I didn't know that I had to file the paperwork at all. So I was kind of concerned. And I'm like, okay, you can go down and visit your family. Your family lives in Nebraska. Great. Then find out a week later that they both get arrested and baby's in CPS care. I haven't talked
What were they arrested for? What were they arrested for?
neglect, and drug charges on top of that.
Now, did the CPS also charge them, or was this something that the sheriff charged them?
I think it was just the sheriff's office.
Well, yeah, but when CPS gets involved, they can make charges too, but they don't arrest
I
people
don't know.
unless they are really in danger. So now, was your brother and his girlfriend placed in jail then?
Yes, sir. Yes, they were.
And
both
then
in
at
jail.
that time, where was the child placed with?
He was automatically emergency placement into foster care system.
Okay. And now you've been trying to work it so that you can get guardianship of that child?
I'm hoping to get adoption because I'm licensed in the state of Montana to take foster children in. I'm kinship. I'm placement.
Can I ask you, how did you become a foster parent? What are the requirements that Montana requires you to be a foster parent?
Well, I'm kinship. I'm only a foster parent for my niece, not other children.
So I don't understand what the foster system, I thought is a group of parents that go to an agency and take some training, and that agency has arrangements with the CPS. And the purpose of the agency is to provide family members to watch the children temporary or adopted children.
Right, but I'm not a foster parent for other children. I'm just a kinship placement.
Okay.
For my
Okay.
niece.
All right. There's nothing wrong with it. I think that is great. Why can't you adopt children the regular way? Is it because it takes too long and too expensive?
Yes.
Okay.
I can't afford an attorney. I've done a lot of money already out. I mean, I got burned over $1,000 just 2 weeks ago. I hired an attorney, and they haven't called me back. They haven't emailed me, nothing. And every time I call their office, oh, well, they're busy. Oh, they're busy. Well, I just spent $3,000 on you.
Wow.
Can't you answer your phone? Can't you answer your text? Can't you answer an email?
You can file a complaint.
And then when I called the staff,
yeah, you can file a complaint in Montana against them. You can get a hold of the bar and file a formal complaint against them.
Yep, I already did that.
That is so sad, Betty, because, we are fighting to have her kids, returned, or fighting to have her kids together with a recent family. And then you got corrupt agencies and corrupt attorneys. It's so sad that lawyers are so corrupt about this, because this isn't a. Go ahead, Betty.
I was supposed to have her in July. The county attorney approved her coming here. Her guardian ad litem approved of her coming here. The caseworker approved of her coming here. The caseworker paid for my ticket to come down there and pick her up and turn around and come back. And mom and dad got into a big old fight at my house at law enforcement. And she ended up going to Washington, which is only 2 states away from me, working the case over there now. And then she turned around and made a complaint to the DPHS office here, saying that my brother's living here. I'm dealing with drugs. My brother's on drugs. I'm on drugs. My kiddos are on drugs. My husband's doing drugs. So we all went and did a drug test. And that was all negative.
Wow.
And the caseworker came into my home. She closed in this case. She closed it, and she sent that information to Nebraska. And still they haven't visited that since the last court hearing.
Now, do you have the phone number? Do you have the phone number of the Montana and the Nebraska ICPC?
I do.
Well, you should call them. You should call them.
Yeah, every time I called, they said that everything is approved. I'm still approved in both states. Nebraska tells me there's nothing that's holding up at that end. Nothing that's holding.
Have they given you something in writing besides verbally? Have they given you something in writing besides verbally?
have it in writing saying that both states. Now, in January, they will be terminating the parents' rights, and my brother's attorney talked to me because my brother has given his attorney permission to talk to me about the case if there's something he needs to know or he needs to relay a message to my brother. I can get him the message because he has no phone or nothing to contact him by. So I contacted him and I said, so what's going to happen in January when their rights are being terminated? He goes, well, their rights are terminated, your rights are terminated too. You need to file something with the court saying that you don't want your rights to be terminated. I said, well, what kind of paperwork is that? He goes, legally, I cannot tell you that because I don't represent you.
Right.
So I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. And every attorney that I've talked to, oh, well, you're going to have to pay like $300 or you're going to have to pay $500. Oh, well, if you pay $3,000, I'll file all the paperwork that you need. Okay, well, I haven't heard a word
Well,
at all.
what are the qualifications of these people? Are they family juvenile dependency attorneys? See, that's one thing your problem may be, is you have the wrong kind of attorney, just like doctors. You're not going to get a baby doctor to do open heart surgery.
Right.
So you got to make sure that you have the right attorney. And the area that you're in is called dependency law, and it has juvenile and families involved in it. So your first question, your first question to these attorneys is that, are you a family juvenile dependency attorney? Is that your background? If the answer is no, then that's the wrong attorney you got.
Okay.
And so I always tell people, when you want to get an attorney for your case, and it involves CPS, you have to ask them very, very candidly, are you a juvenile family dependency law attorney and has fought CPS? If the answer is yes, your second question to them should be, have you ever sued CPS, either in state court or federal court? And if the answer is yes, then you got yourself a good attorney. If the answer is no to both those questions, you don't have the right attorney.
Okay.
And it's like anything else. You got to make sure that you have the right person for the job. Because fighting CPS is like open heart surgery. I mean, it's very difficult to fight them.
It is.
And they're going to bring you up and then bring you down. They're going to make false promises and false hopes. They're not going to be transparent. They're only interested in the money-making things. CPS is making trillions of dollars a year. Number one, they have an incentive program going where President Bill Clinton signed into law in 1997 that tells the CPS that if you get them into foster care, you get rewarded X number of dollars. And they don't really believe in family reunification. Now, that should be the primary way, but if the both parents are not capable of taking care of the mistakes they made, like you said, that the girlfriend of your brother is no good about that, then
She ended up going to the psycho ward over in Washington, and they diagnosed her with schizophrenia. And the judge, last court hearing, he was like, oh, I'm so proud of you. You're doing great. And sounds like he's going to place the child with her, but then her mental health comes in play. And she's supposedly living by herself, which I can see that, yes, but living with her grandmother, we know that because the last time she was in court, and when she put a string order against my brother, she used her grandmother's address on that string order.
Okay. Well, First,
just don't know where to go and what to turn.
yeah, I know. Well, the first thing you need to do is you need to first address the people that are representing you. You need to get rid of them if they're not the right kind of attorney. And second of all, if they owe you money, you need to file a complaint to get the money back because they made a promise they can't keep. If they're not a family juvenile dependency attorney, then they can't win your case. They don't know how to. If they're a criminal attorney, criminal attorneys will not work. Because I really am sorry you're going through all this. This is not a very pleasant thing to deal with.
No, it's causing a lot of stress and a lot of heartache on me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know what else to do. I'm at my totally.
Well, I'm glad that you called in. Right. I'm glad you called in because fortunately you qualify for a free 15-minute private consultation with Mr. Davis, my attorney. He is a family juvenile lawyer, and he'll talk to you privately for 15 minutes. All I will need from you is you text me your full name, your phone number, and your email. And that's to the number you called in, 626-698-0990. And you text me that information, I'll have my producer, Grace, who will help you have that private consultation with Mr. Davis.
Okay.
Also with Mr. Davis, you can mention, and you may want to think ahead so the question you ask can make good usage of your time. And make sure when you talk to Mr. Davis, you say that Bob Pace sent you and that, you know, what you need to do is you need to know some direction or insights of how to handle this case. Because right now it seems like you're throwing away money at people that are just taking advantage of you. And then, of course, CPS, you cannot trust them. They're not your friend. They'll lead you up and then drop you down. They want to manipulate. They want that child to be in limbo so they get money every month for that child.
So do you know what kind of paperwork that I need to file?
Well,
offhand,
I do the same thing you're going to do. You're going to go to, what city in Nebraska is this? Fremont. Okay. It's very important when you Google this because it's how you place your words. You start with the word Fremont, then you go comma Nebraska, and then you put in the three letters CPS. And then you say, what paperwork do I file for? And what do you want to do? Guardianship, right?
Guardianship, placement, adoption.
Right. So that's how you phrase it. And, you know, you got to spend at least, 40 hours research on the internet. You'll find so much that way. You'll find so much away. Fremont, Nebraska, CPS, adoption or guardianship. And you'll see what pops up. And you'll see the forms you need to file.
Okay.
Because that is that where the Fremont, that's the CPS that has control of the child, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, that's going to help you immensely to do that.
Okay.
So now, what's the biggest city next to Fremont in Nebraska?
Omaha.
You may have to put Fremont, Omaha, Nebraska, and then put CPS, and then put the adoption or guardianship, the paperwork needed. Because Fremont may not be that big of a city, but Omaha is. I don't know. I don't know for Fremont. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a small cowboy town or something.
Small. It's pretty big size. I was there in May, and it was huge.
Okay. Well, then you may be fine with just Fremont, Nebraska, CPS, and then your guardianship paperwork, your adoption paperwork.
Okay. because I know my brother's an attorney. He said that he's going to pull me up on the stand in January to have another testimony, because before I was down there in May and I had a testimony, and they asked me what my goal was. I like unifying the child back with the parents. If need to be, I am willing to adopt her. I am willing to step up and be that responsibility for her. And I haven't heard nothing since then. I had visitations for 2 weeks with her. All my visitations went well. They were all supervised. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better time with my niece than I did, because I had grown that bond. And when I talked to the child guardian ad litem, she told me, how can you keep a bond with a child that she hasn't been in your care? Well, she was in my care for 45 days prior of them leaving to Nebraska. She was 3 months old when they left here.
Okay. Well, a child.
Can't drop a bond like that. I
Yeah.
mean, if anything, you grow that bond.
Well, right. Child will get a bond, just like if you ever notice, like, for instance, there could be a litter of dogs, and a duckling loses its mother, but the duckling will soon become with that mother dog and her dogs, and that will be a bond created. When a duckling is, freshly born, and you have the duckling, that duckling will follow you around thinking you're the mother. So it's a special bond that children can make with people. The problem is that child needs a stable environment, needs a stable family, and that's what you want to offer that child.
Oh, I'm that person for her.
It sounds like you are. And that way your brother can still have interaction when he's taking care of his problems. He has to address his own demons and straighten out the mess with CPS.
Yep, and he doesn't want to work the CPS case at all. They told him to find a job, find housing, and he had a job here, and he let it go because his car broke down, so he didn't call in. And the next day he went to work, and they told him that he can leave because he's not reliable.
Yeah, that's one thing that people have to understand. If you have a commitment and you can't honor the commitment, you have to call. It's so important people show responsibility.
It is.
Yeah.
The baby's biological mom's family got paperwork in the mail. Even biological mom's younger brothers and sisters, which is like 12 and 13 years old, asking for guardianship if they are willing to take guardianship of the child. And they were too young. They're minors. And the mom, the grandma, said that she works too much, so she couldn't do it. I haven't received one paper at all asking if I would take this child.
Really? Do you have a good rapport with the Betty, do you have the good rapport with the CPS?
Yes, I do. My record is clean.
Okay. I wonder why they haven't contacted you.
Yeah, they haven't contacted me or nothing. So I don't know what to ask the caseworker. If I need to ask her, well, where's my paperwork saying if I can get guardianship, or what do I need to ask her? I mean, they've gone through 6 different caseworkers since this case has been open.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Wow, that's a lot of caseworkers.
Well, I hate to say it, it's a hard job that they're doing. They're not nobody's friend. CPS has a bad reputation because they're stealing the money, and they're only interested in helping out if there's money involved.
That's true. I 100% agree with that. They're money-hungry people.
I mean, that's what seems to make the agency go and do what they do.
I agree.
Now, do you have any children yourself?
I do. I have 3 children of my own. I have a 16-year-old, I have a 13-year-old, and I have a 12-year-old.
And how they feel about you taking in a child that's a couple years old? Okay, so they're supportive of you then, right?
Yes, yes, they are.
Now, do you
100%.
now are you married or do you have a boyfriend or what's your situation?
I am married. I've been married. It'll be 12 years on the 12th of this month.
Congratulations. Thank you. I'd like to hear that. So it sounds like you have a stable environment for the children, and
Yes,
at least one of the biological parents will be able to be still in touch with his children if that's important to him or not. Doesn't sound like it's too important to him because he doesn't want to take a job seriously. I know how hard it is. You know,
it is hard.
I've worked his little mini job and I have to struggle every time to get paid. Um, it's
Mm-hmm.
always so hard the person supposed to pay me because I feel like I got to beg every day for my money. I mean, it keeps getting growing bigger and bigger and bigger. But I take my job seriously no matter what I'm doing, and so um, it's something that everybody should out there. You have to work in society. Nothing's for free. Nothing's for free.
I agree with that. I work a full-time job and I take care of my children, and I'm willing to take on this responsibility too. And my husband works a full-time job. My oldest boy, he works a full-time job. My other two are full-time in school. And always, one of us is here to make sure that they are inside when we're out for the day.
Well, that is really good. I'm really glad to hear that. I'm really glad to hear that, Betty.
I mean,
How did this? I mean, why would they go from an apartment in Montana to a treehouse in Nebraska?
well, they thought that they could transfer their Section 8 housing immediately down to Nebraska, and that's not how it works. And that's what I told them. I said, you have to give yourself time to find a place down there that is Section 8 approved. And once the Section 8 approved, you'll have to pay normal rent until your Section 8 kicks in. It takes at least a month or longer for that to kick in.
I see.
But they thought it was immediate, and it wasn't immediate. They were just going on the wing and letting it go.
How is that child that you want adopted? How's that child getting along? He's 2 years old now?
She'll be 2 in February. February 5th, she'll be 2.
How is she adapting to all the turmoil?
Well, I know she seems like she's happy where she's at, but the foster mom has like 4 or 5 other foster children in the home, and she just recently had surgery on her ears because she wasn't walking, she wasn't talking until July. And that was way over the time that she should have been talking. She should have been talking at least 6 months old.
Oh, did she have some type of a medical? She had some type of a medical issue?
Yes, she had to have ear tubes placed in her ears.
Okay.
Because she had so much fluid built up inside of her ears that it wasn't making her hear things correctly. It was muffled, and she wasn't walking because it was making her unbalanced.
Right,
So
the fluid, yes.
in her ears,
Right.
made her to hear and talk and walk, and she's just learning to run now. And I'm like, oh, I wish I was there to see you, and I miss you.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, Betty.
My internet sometimes.
Yeah. Now, what would happen if you got the right paperwork and you got possession of that child? What happens if you come to Nebraska and take the child back with you to Montana? Why do you need the ICPC involved?
Well, I thought you needed that to have the child be engaged with you. That's what my thought was.
Well, okay, the ICPC is only needed when it's necessary, but I know it'd be a couple day trip from Montana to Nebraska. So you're probably
I could fly there within 12 hours.
right. But I think that if you had the right paperwork and that you were the guardianship of that child, it'd be quicker and easier if you just did there. You don't have to deal with the middleman or wait for a year for the ICPC to do their job. I'm just trying to help out with ideas there because, I had one case of I had a girl that was on my show a bunch of times, and she's from Georgia, and she was incarcerated for quite some time, but then she got out and she wanted to get in touch with her son. They had forgotten about the mother. And so after she's done her time and she's did what she did was wrong, she's entitled to her son. The only problem is her son, I think he was just turned 18 or was going to turn 18. And when you turn 18, you no longer are dependent of CPS. You can actually be adult and you can go out there. Well, he was being transferred from Texas to Georgia, and he's in the ICPC, but they lost him. And now he's 19, a year older, and he's still in the CPS's hands. They're still getting money for him. And he says he wants to come home and be with his mother. His mother wants to take care of him. He's a special needs child. She takes care of her brother, who's a special needs child. So she does not mind taking care of her child who's special needs. But the ICPC mean to drag it on. It got longer. It got confusing.
Mm-hmm. It does.
So I always suggest to parents that if you have the proper paperwork, you can go get your child. You don't have to have independent agency transfer from one agency to another and have all this additional downtime with the child.
That paperwork, yeah, I would do it in a heartbeat.
And so basically it's just getting the agency, which should be in Fremont, Nebraska, giving you the right to pick up your child, meaning that they have okayed you to be a guardianship of that child.
Mm-hmm.
And that is just going to before a judge, and the judge will sign into order. But you got to make sure you use the right attorney too, because you got those attorneys that just want your money, nothing else. Those are the wrong attorneys.
Correct.
Now, do you know if the CPS agency in Fremont, Nebraska, are they pretty fair group of people? Or do you think they're just lying to you and just want to just milk out the money on the child?
I think they're just milking the money off the child.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's probably what they're doing.
Because she was supposed to be placed with me, like I said, in July. And, sorry.
It's okay.
That then the mother made these allegations, then it stopped everything because I guess once the CPS case is open against you, they have to stop that case to investigate. And once they do investigate and they find it false, they were supposed to pick back up where they left off. That's what my guess was, but it never happened like that.
I wonder why.
That's what I'm kind of wondering. Why did they just automatically just stop and keep pushing for her to be in foster care system?
Well, it's the money thing.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's all they wanted it was for the money. I mean, I bought my ticket to go down there, round trip, one day. I would go down there. I would leave here at 5 o'clock in the morning, be there by 1 o'clock in the afternoon, pick the child up from the airport. At 2 o'clock, my flight was ready to leave again, back, and I would be back at my house at midnight with the child. And then turn around, nope, Mom decided that she was going to make these allegations against me, and then it just stopped everything.
Oh, boy. That is a very hard situation you're in. Very, very, very hard.
So what kind of paperwork I can file against the mom for making false accusations?
Well,
CPS
no.
like that?
Again, that's something you're going to ask Mr. Davis. What you're going to do is you're going to text me your name, your email, and your phone number, and then I'm going to contact Grace, who's going to make arrangements for you to meet with Mr. Davis, and you need to ask him that question. How do you get guardianship of the child? So, Fremont, Nebraska. CPS.
I just don't know what to do anymore.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
I mean, I don't know why they would not be placing the child with me if I have everything that they have asked of me to do, like my ICPC, a home study, a background check, my registration to my car, my insurance to my car, my driver's license number. Everything that they have is all current. And when I had to renew my license this year, I gave them my new license number and stuff. So it's like, well, what's the holdup? I've given you everything that you needed. Why is the child still not being placed with me? And when I talked to my attorney, my brother's attorney about that, and he goes, well, the only thing that's a holdup right now is the county attorney. The county attorney doesn't feel comfortable of placing the baby with you in your care because there's not resources there for the child as she's receiving it here. And I'm like, okay, well, explain those resources to me that she needs.
Well, I
was going
to say, I just looked up the state of Nebraska Judiciary Branch. It's the Supreme Court of Nebraska Gov. And I'm looking at the guardianship and conservatorship information. When persons are unable to make responsible decisions about their finances, property, living situation, and care because of their age, physical, or mental conditions, a petition can be filed with the county courts to appoint a guardian or conservator. A court appointing guardian conservator manage the personal and or financial affairs of vulnerable persons who can no longer protect themselves. So this may be elderly people or things like that, but it could also be young children. But it tells you right now the steps that you need to do. That's all by getting there. You have access to a computer, right?
I do, yes.
Well, it's really I think if you phrase it right, because what I did is I went in there and I typed in, let me see what I did here. Hold on. I typed in Fremont, Nebraska, CPS, paperwork for guardianship. And that's what popped up. So I'm pretty sure you can do the same thing too. But right now, I have now time for my show to end. It's almost 8:00. But I want to thank you for calling in, Betty, and trying to help you. Right now, when you text me that phone number of yours and your email and your name, I will forward it on to get you so that you can have a consultation with Mr. Davis.
Sounds great, and I did send you that information.
Okay, great. I'll check into it as soon as the show ends. So thank you all much, listeners. Thank you, Faye, as always, calling in and being there. Faye is going, my special prayers go out to Faye because she's really going through some hard times in her personal life with her physical well-being. So I really pray that she gets herself better. Thank you. And God bless everybody. This is Bob Pace going to sign off. You'll hear a brief message from my attorney, Vincent Davis, and I'll be on again tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. This is Bob Pace signing off. Good night.
Hi, I'm attorney Vincent Davis, and I've been fighting CPS for over 35 years. Through my years of experience, I've gained invaluable insights that I'm ready to share with you. If you're a parent or a caregiver or a relative, we need to talk. I'm offering a new opportunity for you to speak with me on a one-on-one basis. Ask me any questions, and I'll provide you with the insight you need to take steps in your CPS case. Members get everything they need to gain confidence and the knowledge that they need to support necessary to truly fight back. And as a special thank you for attending, I have a special offer just for you. Don't miss out. Join us, and let's take that next step together. I'll see you at the question and answer event.